Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here again on this day. It's a beautiful day. And as always, I'm thinking of you as spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. Just the other day, I made a post and I called it, "What is it that's worth dying for?" And throughout the presentation, I believe it was established that the thing that is worth dying for is what we might call life, what we might call living. Living is worth dying for. Dying to live. Isn't that something? Well, if you didn't listen to that post, I recommend that you get the chance, check it out. But what really amazed me is that a day following, I believe I heard someone mention that somehow Kanye West and Donald Trump had spoken, and out of that, a decision was rendered that they perhaps would consider being candidates for president in 24. Now, I don't know who's going to be the main man. It's going to be Kanye or Donald Trump. When I first thought of it, it, it just shook me to even think that the condition of our society and these two gentlemen as they presented themselves to me, there's no way. And so it became frustrating. And I was going to do a post right then, but for some strange reason, it didn't happen. Today, I feel a little bit more relaxed about it. I'm thinking about when Donald Trump became president of the United States. He had really the opportunity to become the greatest president this nation could ever imagine, up until this point at least. But he didn't have the stuff that's required to do that. Could have, but he didn't. And I'm thinking about Kanye. Does he have the stuff? And Kanye would probably wonder, of course, as much as anybody else has had the stuff, he has the stuff. But what I would respond to that is that none of that stuff was good enough. And if you're carrying the same bag, it's not good enough. And we, the American people, don't have any time to waste while somebody's playing game in government, through government, as they mess over the peasants, we, the people. We don't have time for that. We're about fixing the game. We're about being fair. We know that the pathway to everybody being satisfied is being fair to people. Being fair to people. Now, sometimes people might not know how to translate that in others' situation, but to commonize it, it basically means that people's needs are being met, my brothers. And if you can come with that, that includes, but not limited to, that they got shelter. Everybody got to get somewhere to live. Get out of these tents. Get out of these ghettos. Rebuild these things. Do whatever you got to do to make living standards something that everybody is happy with. Can't stop there. Everybody got to have access to the clothing and the food. And everybody got to have some other things to make sure that this, what we're talking about right now, has some importance, has some essence. And they got to be educated. When people don't know, okay, but teach people how to love themselves, to know themselves. And they'll want to know what's happening out there so they'll understand themselves and they can be educated. And through this education, my friends, we can get all kinds of things that have been expressed through our imagination. Brothers, do you, Kanye, understand that kind of stuff? I know Trump doesn't. Do you know that healthcare is something that we all need from the womb to the tomb? And it should be accessible to everybody in abundance so people don't have to be waiting for weeks to get a chance to see the doctor for a headache. And it should be done with the best in mind. For the best. Who? We, the people. my friends, and all the other things that happen. Do you understand this? Do you have a proposal to see the manifestation of this? Can you explain that? Can you show that to we, the American people, so we don't have to wonder? Can you give us a role to play in it so we don't have to sit back and complain? I mean, do you really have that kind of stuff? If you do, then come on, please stand up tall. Now, I don't know if, yes, even miracles can happen. Even though Donald Trump has done all that he's done, even Donald Trump can change. In fact, that's what it's all about. All of us, my friends, let me just say this, I'm going to step away from that for a moment. Regardless of what we think about Donald Trump, and there are many of us who think negative of Donald Trump. As negative as we might think of Donald Trump, every last one of us fall right in that line somewhere. Somewhere in that line of negativity somewhere. We might not be as bad and negative. We might not be so close to him. We might step a little back for a little bit further, get away from him, but all the way up, it's the same thing. Because not to be in that, my friend, in that frame, without being in that frame, you would be somewhere doing those kinds of things that would be eradicating and making that frame smaller and smaller and smaller, to the extent that those things that we hate don't happen anymore. Why? Because we fixed the problem. Now, back to the scene. Kanye, can you and ex-President Trump come to the American people with a proposal that they can see, that they know is possible? Do that. And brother, you got all the help you might not even need. But other than that, don't waste our time. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a message that we must consider. This is how we fix our problems. And we must do that to the extent that people who are going through all kinds of atrocities in their systems and their land, to the extent that people are running away from freedom, running away for freedom, and finding it really no place, but a little bit better than where they were, because there it appears that it's all out of place. And I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, something that I have, and I'm going to close this, something I have said about God. You've heard people say that God is all-powerful. God is the only power. There's no power about God, without God. And people have tried to speak on the fact that evil exists in the world. And how could God do this and how could God do that? And I'm sure we've all had some debate with ourselves in that regard. I know I have. Then I was thinking something the other day. I don't know what it was meant for me to say it to you, but it meant something to me, so I just share it with you. When you understand, do not put your finger, this is simple, do not put your finger on a hot ice, on a hot attraction. Do not put your finger on the stove, because there are some consequences that you will not like. Now that's information. That's good information. That's knowledge speaking to perhaps ignorance. Now, what happens? If a person decides, oh, well, I trust them, and you don't just trust people. People have to have some standard. Why do they trust you? And if you got that outstanding, then they say, well, I trust that one, so I'm not going to put my finger on it. So they just don't put their finger on it because they trust the teacher. But then someone else comes along, and they get the same message, but that might not happen to me. Just because it happened to you doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. And so they put their finger on the hot stove. Now, we all know who have been that crazy. We know what happened. It burned, right? Now, what was that? Was that the devil burning his finger? Or was that God burning his finger? What is it? You know it was God. You shall reap what you sow. The seed that you plant determines the fruit you get. In other words, there is something that's good, and that's truth, information. You didn't have to put your finger on that stove, but you made a choice. And that is what happens in life. Everything, the problems that we have in life, in America, in our systems, is because of the choices that we have people, as people, have made. And every last one of us have accepted to a degree what's going on and what's been going on and what's planning to be going on. You see right now, everybody's talking about Trump and what he plans on doing and how Trump is still out muttering the waters about people's minds, because every day something is constantly being said. It might be positive to some people, it might be negative to other people, but it's constant and constant. Constant, something that they say they're trying to get rid of, don't want to have anything to do with, but they're constant and constant. Somebody comes along and talks to you about that heavenly plan that we're telling Kanye and Trump to bring and put on the table and share with us. Somebody come and tell us about that. They haven't even mentioned it. Who is they? They are those that have the ability to. That means know about it, hear about it, share it. But why don't they? Because what? It explains why we have the problems that we have. In this, there's an acceptance of being unfair. That is the way it is. That we understand. But with changing your mind, making another choice, this is why I'm asking Kanye. If he can come this way, then that means we can come this way. And now that it has been mentioned, we don't have to wait on Kanye to make a decision, to think about it. We ourselves can be making a decision. We can be thinking about it. So when we come together, we all got thoughts relative to the subject matter of how we bring peace and prosperity and freedom and joy and happiness and the dreams being met to all of us, we the people, the human race on this God-given earth. That's what we will be focusing on, and that's what it's all about. And if we are not about that, boy, we got a lot to learn. Well, I think I better end it here. Well, it's been great. Have a nice day.